Hello, everybody, and welcome to our notes about non-renewable energy resources. Swabat! Students will be able to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of non-renewable energy sources. This is a really current topic that a lot of people have been talking about in the last few years about renewable versus non-renewable energy. So these notes will focus on non-renewable. All right. Non-renewable energy sources are sources that do not naturally replenish or renew themselves like in our lifetimes. So in a span of so many years, they're depleted by use, which means that when we use them, they're gone. They will eventually run out. Fossil fuels are a specific category of non-renewable energy. They are made up of coal, oil, and natural gas. They were formed when layers of buried plants and animals and gases are put under pressure over millions of years. So if you can see my t-shirt, it's kind of a funny shirt based on this fossil fuels. My shirt shows dinosaurs. It's not necessarily dinosaurs that were buried. It's usually like smaller animals and plants that were buried. But those things formed coal, natural gas, and oil, and they are currently our primary source of energy in the United States and around the world. All right, so coal, the first one we're going to talk about. Coal is fossilized carbon. It's combustible, meaning you can burn it. And that's what makes it an energy source, is you can burn it. If it was just like an ordinary rock, you wouldn't be able to burn it and get energy from it. It is mined. So we go into coal mines, people go into coal mines and dig it out. There are areas where coal is very plentiful and can be mined, and it is burned, like I said. So it's combustible. It is burned to produce electricity is the main thing we get from coal. Okay, there's different coal types. You don't have to maybe write this down, but I just want to show you that there are different types of coal. And there's actually even something even before this called peat. Peat is like the first layer, and then it can turn into lignite, which is younger, is brownish, has less value. So bituminous, and then anthracite. So the longer and the more pressure it's been under, the better it is, and the more energy they can get out of that coal. Advantages to coal. It's pretty plentiful. It's not really running out anytime soon. It is pretty inexpensive. There's a lot of jobs that are created with coal, and it's easy to transport, move around the country. I don't know if any of you guys have seen trains around. I live in Larkspur, so I see a train pretty frequently, and most of the time, those trains are filled with coal, just these black rocks in trains. It's pretty easy to move around. Disadvantages. Coal is the dirtiest of the three fossil fuels that we're going to talk about. So it releases the most pollution and greenhouse gases into the environment when it's burned. Mining obviously impacts the land. So if you're digging a mine, you're impacting the habitat and land around the mine. And mining is also a dangerous job. So for miners, it can be dangerous. They can be breathing in coal dust. It's hard on their lungs. It's dark and dirty, and you can have cave-ins. So it's a dangerous job. The next fossil fuel is oil, which is also called petroleum or crude oil. It's found underneath rock in reservoirs, and it can be gotten out of the rock from drilling. And there are drilling setups on land, and they can also be in the ocean. We've got lots of oil rigs in the ocean. And oil is mainly used for gasoline, for fuel. So fuel for cars, airplanes, boats, any kind of engine that requires fuel. So gasoline is the main way we use oil. It is also used to make a lot of plastics, different petroleum products. Advantages to oil. A small amount produces a lot of energy. It's fairly inexpensive. It's pretty easy to transport, maybe not as easy as coal, but you can put it in barrels and in trucks and move it around. And it's reliable to provide energy. The disadvantages is that it produces greenhouse gases and pollution from cars and planes and boats, other vehicles that use gasoline. Spills are very dangerous, right? If you spill some coal on the ground, it's not too big of a deal. The coal is a solid, you can pick it up. But this is a liquid spill, and oil spills can be really dangerous to the environment and animals that are around when the spill happens. The drilling itself can harm the land or the ocean wherever it's drilled. And while we get a lot of our oil from our own country, we don't get enough of it from our country, and we have to purchase oil from other countries to get it. And so that can be a disadvantage when we're dealing with other countries to get our oil. All right, the third fossil fuel that we're going to talk about is natural gas. So it is also found underground, and you can also burn it. All of these, same thing with gasoline in your cars. It's considered a combustion. It's burning the gas to make your engine run. So all of these are burnable or combustible. Advantages to natural gas. It is the cleanest of the fossil fuels. So it burns cleaner, it releases less pollution and less greenhouse gases compared to oil and coal. Oil and coal. The main use of natural gas is for heating. So like most people's homes are heated with natural gas, and also like cooking your stove, if you have a gas stove. So not everybody has a gas stove, but it's mainly used for heating homes and buildings, businesses, and for cooking. Disadvantages. Gas leaks can be very dangerous and cause explosions. So actually this happened in Colorado a few years ago. There was a natural gas explosion and it killed, I think, 2 people up north near Greeley. It is not as easy to transport as other fossil fuels because it's a gas. So it's not as easy. You have to build facilities and like pipelines to move it. So this picture down here is of a pipeline that can move natural gas. It can harm the land from where they're drilling, just like the other ones. And even though it's cleaner, it still creates pollution and greenhouse gases. Along with natural gas, there is a technique called fracking that is used to get gas and oil out of rock. So it's a drilling process. And what they do is they shoot water, high pressure water and chemicals are like pushed into the rock to push out the gas and oil. So this is kind of a controversial method of getting gas and oil. Some people are all for it. Some people are against it. The advantages are that it can get more oil and natural gas than other drilling methods. It makes us less dependent on other countries and it also creates jobs. Disadvantages, it uses a lot of water. The chemicals that are used could be dangerous and pollute the groundwater or the ground. It's very noisy. And it has been linked to causing earthquakes in certain states. So there's more research that's being done on that. So those are the 3 fossil fuels. We've got one other non-renewable energy that we're going to talk about, which is nuclear power, nuclear energy. Nuclear energy, how we use it around the world for energy is energy from fission, which is taking a large atom and splitting it and you get energy. So you use elements like uranium or plutonium, and it's a really large nuclei, so a really large atom. It's got lots of electrons and protons and neutrons, and they split it and it gives off heat and light. So it's like the opposite of nuclear fusion, which we learned about from when we learned about stars. So stars take hydrogen and fuse atoms together. In this process, fission is taking an atom and splitting it. So nuclear is considered non-renewable because uranium and plutonium are not renewable elements. There's only a certain amount of it. It'd be like gold or copper or silver. There's so much of it in the earth, and once it's gone, it's gone. So it's in limited quantities. All right, advantages to nuclear. It is very clean burning, very clean energy. The energy itself is not very expensive. You need very little uranium or fission materials to produce a lot of energy, and it's pretty easy to transport this form of energy. Disadvantages. You have to mine the materials. So you have to mine the uranium, plutonium, because it's an element. It's like gold or something. You got to mine it, and that can damage the environment. And then once the energy is received, they're left with some radioactive materials after they've gotten all the energy, and they have to store that, which is pretty costly. You can also have a radioactive accident with those materials that can be very dangerous to the land around it, to people who live near, to animals or wildlife. And it's pretty expensive to build the infrastructure to make the original plants that nuclear is produced. All right, so how is the energy produced? So fossil fuels are burned and heat energy is created by splitting an atom for nuclear. So, and I've got a little picture here. So they do the burning or they split the atom for nuclear, and then they have this water that gets heated up. The water turns to steam, which goes into a pipe, and it turns a turbine or like some sort of windmill-like looking thing. That turbine is connected to a generator and we get electricity. So all of these fuels, we kind of do a similar process where we burn water, get steam, and we get electricity. All right. Can you think about why we might still be using non-renewable energy, even though we know it's not as good for the environment as renewable energy, which we're going to be learning about very soon? So I want you to be thinking about those advantages and disadvantages. And here we are with our meme that fossil fuels are eventually going to run out. And just as we've learned all year, even with non-renewable energy, science rocks.